Valley. Very happy to have everyone here today. I'm happy to be here today myself. If we consider how things are going on in the world, meaning at an existential level, I was noticing this morning how the sun came up at a time I could predict, and I also noticed that there were some bees outside and plants were thriving, and I had a sense of the ways that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, the ancient wisdom literatures, describe how this stage of the universe, we're in a period of maintenance. There are times when the universe is declining, and that goes on perpetually. There's a constant state of destruction that takes place, but in general, the state of the universe at this particular juncture is that it's maintaining. However, there are drastic events that take place in the form of Shristi, which means to come forth, when the energy of the universe has been conserved, but then it, after some time, bursts forth again. And then it evolves from subtle to gross, and the various manifestations that we see now become remanifest. Then there's a stage during which everything is dismantled, and there's the non-application of the conglomerating process that takes place from subtle to gross, and the gross goes back as if telescoping back into the subtle. And in conclusion, the world's always in flux. And we are also in a tenuous situation, although we have a body which is like a universe itself. It's a perfect unit in the sense that it maintains itself. Homeostasis is a natural process that we might take for granted. And digestion, respiration. I won't try to name all the physical functions of the body from A to Z, but they're considerable, and they all somehow are coordinated with one another. And that's a kind of maintenance that's going on also. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is behind that. Krishna is a person. He's the supreme person, and he's the maintainer of everything. He's also the source of things springing forth, and at the end of the cycle of manifestation, of maintenance, there's also a time when he orchestrates that the material world be reconstituted, recycled. It goes in the recycle bin and gets recreated again. We're in a realm, says Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, that's subject to these cycles, or to this cycle, which is continuously manifesting, maintaining, and then diminishing and vanishing. It's eternal. That process goes on, has been going on, it will always going on. And then Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita how beyond this unstable realm that we live in, unstable because it's constantly changing. In fact, the very nomenclature for the aggregate of the world is bhava. And bhava means that which is becoming something else. Whatever we grasp here changes even as we're grasping for it, and becomes morphed, is morphed, does morph into something else. And then Krishna describes, and this description's in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that besides this realm, there are other realms. There are categorically 3 realms. There's the spiritual realm, which is eternal. Krishna describes that in the Bhagavad Gita when he says that it's para, it's better. It's better in the spiritual world. That's our part of our logo. And he says, parastasmat tu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yaksak sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashiti. He says, there is a superior realm, and it's not subject to the cycle that goes on here. And those who know that and the process to transfer themselves there aren't obligated to come back into the realm where there's constant change. Parastasmat tu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. It's sanatana realm, means it's permanent, it isn't destroyed, it isn't created. Interestingly, anything that's created will also be destroyed. So the idea of creation is not prevalent in the spiritual world because it's always there. It's not here today, gone tomorrow. Avyakto shara ityuktas tamahu paramam gatim yam prapya nanavartante tadhama paramam mama. Krishna says, that's my realm, the spiritual world. And avyakto shara ityuktas, it is said that that realm is avyakta. It's unmanifest, which means it's not created. Akshara means it's also infallible. It's not fraught with the anomalies that we're used to here in the material world. For us, as spiritual beings, part of the spiritual world, our relationship with matter is awkward. Can you think of any other adjectives about your relationship with the material world besides awkward? AWKWARD. Even the word itself sounds a little awkward. Awkward. What else? Frustrating. Look it up. Awkward, frustrating, exhausting. Exhausting. Incomplete. Transactional. What does frustrating mean? Frustration. They're looking up for a microphone the way a chikora bird might look up for a drop of rain to come from the rain cloud. But so far none has come.
Frustration, the noun, comes from, it's an act of frustrating, disappointment, defeat. 1550s from Latin frustrationem, a deception, a disappointment. Noun of action from past participle stem of frustrare, to deceive, disappoint, make vain, from frustra, in vain, in error, which is related to frus, injury, and harm.
Yikes. So it's good to know. And regarding another realm, there's what's called the viraja, which is a demarcation between the realm known as the temporary realm, the material world. The viraja is a neutral zone where there are no modes of material nature, but there's no spiritual variety either. But crossing over that neutral zone, then there's the paravyoma. Para, again, the word supreme. Avyoma means sky. It's really the area, although it's unlimited, of the spiritual world where there are not the same anomalies as in the material world. The anomaly is created because of our juxtaposition of being superior energy, which Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, when he tells about the elements of this world. Bhumir apo analo vayu kamano buddhirevacha ahankara ityame vina prakritirashita. He says there are 8 elements that this material world's made of: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. I guess if you ever took chemistry, you would have preferred that list than all the other stuff you had to memorize. You could have taken a break for a few semesters. And he says, but beyond these gross and subtle material energies, which means they're subject to the process of change, is a superior energy. Bina prakriti rashada, then apareyam. Besides this, he says, apareyam itas tvanyam prakriti vidime param. Shivabhutam mahabaho yayedam jarite jagat. He said, besides these lower energies, binda, he calls them separated. They're separated from the spiritual world. There's another energy which is superior, and it's the conscious entities. Consciousness is categorically different from matter. It's not a product of the combination of matter under any circumstances. They're just categorically different. And it's the spiritual sparks of Krishna, who are also personal, who maintain the material world in the sense that they animate the various bodies and they manipulate the energy so they can move energy around. And because they're categorically different, it's frustrating to work with the lower energy. We can never really be satisfied, you said, incomplete. We always feel incomplete dealing with the material nature because it's infinitely grosser than we are. And a subtle energy cannot feel full satisfaction with the grosser energy. We seek, therefore, subtleties in the way of beauty and various other kinds of aesthetics. But even those on the material level can't fully satisfy us. But there is a way that when we're able to contact the spiritual energy or be reunited with it, be in contact with it, then we feel satisfaction and we also feel complete. So Krishna consciousness is the way in which we come back in touch with the source of everything. And the Ishopanishad describes how the source of everything is a person. It's not an impersonal energy. And as a person, the source of everything is called Avigna and Swarat, which means that our source, the person, or as Prabhupada, our founder, has given the terminology, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's fully conscious of everything and everyone. And Swarat, he's also fully independent. He's not dependent on any of us or on any of his energies, rather they're dependent on him. Everything's dependent on him, and everything's resting on him. He says, Matak paratanam nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. That just as pearls are held by a thread, so similarly, he says, everything that you see is resting on me, and it depends on me. That's also confirmed in the Upanishads, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahunam, Yovididhati Kaman, which says that much what I'm saying now, there are many eternals. Each one of us is an eternal. We're a particle of consciousness, part of the Supreme, much like photons coming from the sun are particles. They're the sun, but they're also separate from the sun at the same time, simultaneously one and different. So we have that quality, and we illuminate the body that we're in. And we also have eternality. We also have some cognition. a lot of words around the word cognition. We have consciousness, free will, and so forth, but it's not unlimited like Krishna's is. Krishna's free will is unlimited, ours isn't. And so the Upanishads say nityo nityanam, which means there are a plurality of eternal entities, but there's one supreme eternal, and the rest are all dependent. Nityo nityanam, chaitanas chaitananam. They're conscious, but there's one that's supremely conscious, and there's other that are dependently conscious, dependent on the supreme. Eko bahunam yo vidhati kaman, and there's a distinction there made in the second half of the verse that says there's the feeders and the fed. And I have a friend, whenever I'd enjoy a meal with him, afterwards he'd always exclaim, well, Krishna's fed us again. And he'd look at me and say, have you ever missed a meal in your life? Of course, there's always fast days, right? That doesn't really count because you did it. I mean, there was lots of prasadam available. It's just we didn't take it. But Krishna's feeding every living being from the ant to the elephant. And therefore, there's this sense in the Upanishads and in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Gita Upanishad, that there's one supreme person, and then there are unlimited, there's an unlimited expanse of dependent living entities, and that's who we are. So now the tricky part comes when the dependent living beings somehow or other get mixed up with the lower energy. And once we're mixed up with the lower energy, it's also Krishna's energy, so it seems pretty nice. But it becomes a source of trouble for us because it feels frustrating. We're also, we feel incomplete when we identify with the nature, the lower nature of the material world. And it's not so hard to get carried away by it because it's so powerful. It's one of Krishna's energies, after all. So are we, even though we're superior to the lower energy of the material world, still the aggregate of all the energy of the material world is under Krishna's control. So therefore he says in the Bhagavad Gita, does Krishna, Daiva hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. That this, he calls it divine energy of mine. He's talking about the material energy. It's difficult or impossible to overcome. But he said there is a possibility to extricate oneself from the frustrating, incomplete feeling of the material nature by coming to Krishna consciousness, or consciousness of Krishna, who's the source of everything and all energies. And that's what we teach here. That's my preface for today. So, the metaphor of the sun can be really helpful. I asked Mukaravind Prabhu on the drive over here, because he drove us here today. Thank you, Mukaravind. And Ramani made sure that, she normally makes sure it's 71 degrees, but today somehow she wanted 70 degrees, so. She usually insists it has to be 71 degrees. I don't know what's with the 70, things are getting cooler. I asked him what was on his mind, and he mentioned a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which metaphorically describes how to come out of frustration, how to feel complete. And it's quite natural. It's a natural metaphor. It's about the sun coming up. And it's a Kechit Kevalaya Bhakta Vasudeva Parayana Agham Dunvanti Kartsnena Nihara Eva Paskara. Eva means like, so that now you know there's a simile or a metaphor coming. And it says, does the verse, spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, Kechit. And some people, out of the multitude of others who are entranced by the lower material nature and have no idea that there's any alternative. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. They take to the process of devotional service, which is characterized by which is the tenets of which are hear the topics of the activities in the spiritual world, Krishna's activities with his devotees, and also instructions from Krishna and his devotees. That's hearing. That's the first process called Shravanam. Then Kirtanam means repeating that, or also singing. I was mentioning, I think it was to my wife the other day, that people who sing nicely get famous really fast. Isn't it? I mean, try to think of the most famous people, readily famous in the world. They just sing. And everyone wants to hear them sing. If they can sing something interesting or meaningful or romantic, poetical, then it tends to awaken in people a sense of happiness or engagement. And so kirtan means to sing. And it's quite miraculous. I was singing the other day, and I was thinking, how am I doing this? That is, how do I hear a note or in my head and then contract my vocal cords so it goes to that note? And I thought, and what's making the sound? It's built in here, a little music box. So you can sing. So that's natural. The ears, we naturally hear things. And that's the first process I mentioned. And if we just put ourselves in a situation where we can hear something spiritual, say the great teachers of bhakti, then you'll naturally feel lifted. And then if you can exert yourself a little bit after you hear, and then you sing what you heard. And that's called kirtan. Then comes smaranam, which means you'll remember. And this is key, because as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, we're subject to our minds. And he gives this dichotomy that the mind can be the friend or the enemy. And he also describes how the reason that we're impelled to accept material conditions is because of our minds and how they're conditioned. And so he tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8, Antakali chamameva smaranukva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nasyata shamshayaha, which means that if you're able to remember Krishna when you leave this body, then he said you'll attain the spiritual world. And then he says, Yang vapi smaran bhavam tadatyante kalevaram tam evaite konteya saratat bhava bhavita. That whatever you remember, so you don't remember Krishna, you remember something else, like what? So whatever you're absorbed in is generally what you remember. I wrote it down the other day. I'm going to have to read it to you if I can find it. It's right here in my notebook. Yeah, under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion, you sink to the level of your training. And therefore, Krishna's recommending in this section, he said, because yang vapi, whatever you remember, because of the way you've let yourself go or the way you've trained yourself, that you will attain without fail. He said to samshaya, there's no doubt about it. That's going to pull you in a certain direction. So if you remember something to do with this world, you're going to get facilitated again for something in this world. If you remember your bank account, for instance, did anybody ever think of their bank account? Like a lot, probably. It's like, how's it doing? And maybe I'll look at it again. I feel good. No, that's not good enough. There's a way we could become absorbed in that. We could become absorbed in a particular relationship in this world. Maybe you have a pet or something. You know, pets really get in you. And you can really love them a lot because they're living entities, and mostly they're friendlier than humans and less complicated. Although there are some neurotic pets out there, I got to admit. So he says, whatever you catch on to, and that becomes the main theme of your life, and it's hard to even know until you're tested at the end and say, okay, here, this is it, time to go. That's what you're going to get. So we're self-determining in that way. So he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama nusmara yudyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mami vaishyasya samshaya. He said, therefore practice in this lifetime. That's what this is. It's a serious science of consciousness that however you've practiced during this lifetime to associate yourself, what you think of, and very most specifically, because it's called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That's pretty clear. We're learning how to hear, chant, and then remember Krishna. And these two things lead to remembering Krishna naturally. If you hear about Krishna, and then you chant about Krishna, like chanting Hare Krishna, for instance, or repeating things you heard about Krishna, then naturally you remember him. So Krishna himself in the Gita says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore do it all the time. Really be serious about it. I read an article about a woman who was born in poverty, and she was also discriminated against because of her race. But her friends described how she became a highly successful person because of her work ethic. And they said how she wouldn't waste a moment. Like once the bus broke down on the way to school and everybody else waited for an alternative bus, but she walked because she didn't want to miss even a minute. And that was representative of how she conducted herself. So Krishna says, if you want to elevate your consciousness and be transferred to a higher position in your next life, then practice. And how much should you practice? A lot. A lot. Like as much as you can to practice this life. Use every opportunity to practice. So that's what he says in the next verse. Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayat. That means practice. Abhyasa means practice. And so that's what this International Society for Krishna Consciousness is. It's for those who are serious about improving themselves, and not improving just a little bit, but solving all problems. You could solve the temporary problems, and for a while you might feel on steady ground, but there is no steady ground in this world ultimately. Even for those who would get stable according to material standards. For instance, what are some points about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? There's shelter, is that the first one? Above shelter is some walking around money. You got to have a little cash in your pocket. You have a decent 401k. And these are material amenities that he mentions, psychological fitting in somewhere. All these one can work towards, and certainly Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, attend to these things so that you do have stability in this world. Don't be lackadaisical, but apply yourself as much as you need so you have necessities. But it's not enough. Any of those will not satisfy us. We have to be fully conscious of God to be happy. So that's going back to the verse I was quoting. Kechit, some people take this up. Kechit kevalaya bhaktiyan. What is it? It's a exclusive focus on our source, Krishna, who's a person. And you can really think of him a lot because he does a lot of things. He's got what's called a lila, or he has activities. He has his own activities. And you can remember those And when you remember them, you can hear about them, remember them, repeat them. Krishna says in the Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyakva deham punarjanma naitima meti sorjana. That if you know about Krishna's position and you know that he's transcendental, and then you learn about his birth, his appearance in the world, and his activities, they're not normal, they're not ordinary, they're divyam, they're divine. And if you remember those, and become acquainted with them, and that's what you're absorbed in, then when you leave this body, you'll not have to take birth again in the material world. So I'll just finish this verse, and then we can have some discussion. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. So what this indicates is that in the process of Krishna consciousness, you don't need to add anything else. Do you have enough oxygen? No, there's not enough oxygen in this room. It's maybe, where's Ramani? You should be watching the temperature somewhere. Ramani, we're going to put her, as soon as she's able, I'm going to put her in charge of the atmospheric conditions everywhere in the temple. Ramani, I'm going to give you some service. You want to make sure the temperature is correct in all the different rooms, okay? Not just your car, but all the rooms. 71, I know, that's your thing. Can someone check where we are now? Are we above the Ramani level? What? It's 72. Ramani, get it on 71. Take her over there and make sure. This is her new service. She's good at it too. See, watch. Fixed. So Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya 6:115. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana. And this specific, this is a statement from the Bhagavatam that we can take with us. Is that Kechit, some people, that's all of you, because that's why you came here. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. So Kevala Bhaktya means that you only need one thrust in your life, and that's bhakti. Bhakti is very specific. It comes from the root word bhaj. It means to worship, to give your heart to, your mind to, one place, and that's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva, that's the name of Krishna. Vasudeva means he's everywhere, so you're not going to have FOMO if you take Krishna consciousness. In fact, you'll have JOMO, the joy of missing out on all the stupid stuff in the material world. And Vasudeva Parayana, and Parayana means, this is very important, Parayana means all you need are the basic tenets of bhakti. You don't need anything else. You don't have to get, what's that, Aflac insurance? You know Aflac with the duck? Aflac. You get, I don't know about it so much, I just know the Aflac duck. And that you get insurance, but then you need auxiliary insurance. With Krishna consciousness, Vasudeva Parayana means that's all you need. It's all covered. No extra insurance policy, which I hate to alarm anybody, but I'm not going to be able to get that anymore anyway. Vasudeva Parayana. Then he says, here comes the metaphor. Agham dunvanti kartsneya nihara iva bhaskara. Bhaskara means the sun. So like the sun, when the fog is covering our vision, and even pedestrians have a hard time when it's dense fog. There are pileups on the freeway, flights are canceled. 600 flights were canceled in Delhi at the beginning of the year. Do you know that? It came at a good time because we were discussing, people were saying, well, we want to go to Vrindavan next year in January. And I think, January? And they say, yeah, it's fine. And then I just happened to see 600 flights canceled. Good luck getting there. So it's foggy, you can't see, you can't fly, you can't do anything. Agham dunvanti. So we get absorbed and involved with the material world as agham, means we have all these inclinations that don't really help us. urges to do this and that, and they come from our previous associations. They're called agam. They're inauspicious. They degrade our consciousness. We don't even like them, right? Say yes. I don't like that. Get it off me. And like, how? Everyone's got a little chip in the game how to get rid of either, you got to get the right diet, or, there's some temporary fix everyone has an idea for. But this is the real fix for it all. And that's the main point of this. Agam dunvanti kartsneya. Once you take to bhakti exclusively, the process of bhakti without any other consideration, it'll, just like the sun, Bhaskar clears up the fog. That's all you need. Good luck getting rid of the fog. Put up a fan. Or even if you had a major enterprise to try to clear fog, you could only clear maybe a little section somewhere, but not the whole environment where the fog is rolled in. But when the sun comes out, Bhaskar is there, everything becomes clear. So parayana means just do the processes of bhakti, and from that everything else will come. Vedeshu yagdeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishnam atyeti tat sarvam vidam vadidvam yogi param stanam upaiti chadyam. So last verse in the 8th chapter of the Gita, which is talking about how to attain success in life. And Krishna says, there are so many other things you can do to try to elevate yourself. And he gives a long list. That's what it is, a list with commas in between. He says, but if you just do the one thing, that is Vasudeva Parayana. Concentrate on Krishna. Think of Krishna. And the way you do that, hear about Krishna, chant about Krishna, and then remember Krishna. If you do that, fog clears. Your consciousness clears. It's like the sun comes out and all the other fog is gone. And then you don't feel frustrated. Then you feel complete, naturally. And you also don't need a certificate. Somebody to certify that you're feeling better, because you know it for yourself. It's very directly experienced. And now we'll just take a couple of reflections or questions. Yes, 1, 2.
I have a question, Maharaj. How do we balance exercising our free will while being connected and dependent on Krishna?
Paradoxically, the more we give ourselves to Krishna, the freer we are. Narada Muni is a good example, because he came from a situation where he was very dependent on his mother. He only had his mother, a single family home. She died, but he had learned this process of Vasudeva Parayana. He learned it from elevated devotees. And afterwards, he felt independent, even as a little child. He's 5 years old. To go out in the world, he didn't feel threatened by it. He didn't feel overwhelmed by it, because he had this Vasudeva Parayana. And he was able, he's an iconic figure in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he was able to become a liberated person. And he practiced during this lifetime. Even during the lifetime of practice, he was noticeably independent. And then when he became totally free, he got a spiritual body, then he was no longer held by the power of the material world, which Krishna describes in the Gita. In the 2nd chapter, he says, Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indrayesharan atmavasharavate atma prasadam arigachati. And this is where the paradoxical sounding lingo comes in, where he says that follow these rules strictly because they'll free you. And the more you follow these rules, which he calls the regulative principles of freedom. And someone would say, from the 1960s, what are you talking about, man? I just want to be free to do what I want. I won't do what anybody wants. But what happens is you get captured by your senses. In fact, the first verse in one of the most important books that we offer here is condensed advice of our main teacher from antiquity, 500 years ago, Rupa Goswami. And he wrote this little book that anyone can carry around in their pocket. And it has the essence of all advice in it. And there he starts off with this verse where he says, Vacho vegam manasakroda vegam, jihva vegam udarapasta vegam, etan vegam yo vishaheta dira, sarvamapimam pritivimna sishat. And that is, he says, if you want to be free, then control your tongue. If you want to be free, control how you eat, how you manage all your senses. And dedicate your senses. Don't just starve, but do this bhakti process. All the senses can be used. Then he says, pritivimna sishat. Interesting turn of phrase. He says, if you're able to control all these senses, starting with the tongue, then everybody in the world becomes your student. Because the real master in this world is the senses. So we become free by becoming Goswami, or the master of our senses. Go means senses, and Swami means master, not controlled by the senses. Those who are able to follow the regulative principles of freedom, especially hearing and chanting and remembering, and not doing anything that will disturb the process, they realize for themselves that no matter where they are, even if they're confined somewhere, they feel free. Because the mind is the main confining feature, and the mind is the center of all the senses. So Krishna consciousness frees us from the inside out. Okay, yes, Prabhu, you had a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is about balance. Like I have a hard time finding, like you mentioned, like independence and interdependence. Like, you know, understanding that, you know, if we do bhakti and have that focus for Krishna, everything will be provided. But then again, you also mentioned things like, you know, Maslow's hierarchy, where you have these relationships, mostly around relationships, like, you know, friends and family and other things that you need to be in this world. So how do you balance those, where I know that everything's within me, but then I also need these relationships and things in the world to really be a functional human being?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Because relationships are tricky, aren't they? Yes. Please say yes. Yeah, relationships are tricky because people are tricky. We're a combination. Each human is a soul, no doubt about that, but also a body. And the body has anomalies itself, what to speak of the mind, and there's differences of opinion between one person and another, naturally, because we're individuals. That's one of the exciting aspects of Krishna's creation. There's a lot of uniqueness. In fact, everything's unique. There's not one thing that's not unique. In fact, that's what my name means. Vaisesika means, it's a name for Krishna, which means he's created everything in a unique way, and no one thing's the same as another. That's why we have slight differences of opinion at every moment. And so, how do we balance all this? Generally, there has community, starting with community. Community means, it comes from the root common. There has to be a common purpose. That's why if you go to Apple, for instance, they have a common purpose, and that's to promote Apple products. We know this because when you check in, they make sure you're not going to talk about Intel or anybody else. You have to sign a thing. I'm not going to say anything about any of it, because this is our common purpose here, is to promote our products, nobody else's. And when you have a relationship with somebody, the more you can have a common understanding that you're working towards a worthy goal together, then the more the relationship can hold together despite the differences, to have an overarching goal. Therefore, when people decide they want to get married, I and also my wife recommend that do a little research about one another. We have this process called premarital education, where you look and you match up all the different values that you have, and ideas about what's important to you and so forth, kind of like a corporate merger. People just don't willy-nilly say, hey, you want to join companies? And like, yeah, sure, why not? Next thing you know, I don't like your balance sheet. And you want to check those things first. And it's important, according to Rupa Goswami in that same book, he said that check those relationships that you have now and see if they're worth your while. Because if you have relationships in which you're not harmonizing and you're also not being encouraged to reach your ultimate goal, then you might want to either externalize those or separate yourself from them altogether. Externalize, by externalize I mean there are some relationships you can't get out of, right? Yes. Yeah. So with those, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, okay, you have to show up, we understand. So if somebody says this, that, the other thing, you say, yes, sir, very good, sir, sounds great. And you do your duty, but you don't internalize it, you externalize it. And for those who are confidential, who have something in common with you in the realm of Krishna consciousness, they're very eager to hear about Krishna and speak about Krishna and so forth. You internalize those, and that's called guyam. Guyam means you make it like, that's my heart connection, is this person over here and that person over there, because we have this common idea that main purpose of life is to become conscious of Krishna. And then despite your differences, which I've noticed because in the international side for Krishna consciousness, it's international. And generally when you go to other cultures, you'll find, oh, how do I fit in here? But Krishna consciousness transcends the cultural differences to the degree we're Krishna conscious, that is. And we find that you'll find, if you get a round the world ticket and you just stop in all the places around the world where people are in a community culturing Krishna consciousness, you'll find a common thread and an agreement and some harmony in the relationships, despite the fact that you might be from a completely different culture. You'll fit in because you're part of a culture of Krishna consciousness. So that's one of the secrets to harmonizing relationships, and being in balance is a important topic also, just in general. Understanding what balance is. Balance doesn't mean you're perfectly still. It means that you're pulling back to the center. For instance, if I stand up right now and stand on one foot, should I do it? No, he's saying don't do it. Okay, if I stand up and I stand on one foot, no, I'm going to do it. Let's see. Ta-da! Now, my ankle is twitching back and forth. I don't know if you could see it, but I'm going a little over this way. Now I'm coming back to the center. It's not still at all. Now watch me close my eyes. It gets more. Whoa! You said don't do it, I know. This is balance. And while I'm standing here and I'm standing on one leg, still it's twitching back and forth. It's going amazingly. I don't even know how it does it. But it holds me. So in our lives, now it's also notable that when I closed my eyes, then I really started to tip. So there's a way in which when you have a long-term vision for your life, that's sort of like your seeing power, it gives you context, then it's much easier to balance. But even then, you're still going to go like this. And one of the ways that you learn to balance is catching your balance over and over again. For instance, there's a bocce ball court in Washington Park that I walk through every day. And most of the time, there's a few days when I walk through that I don't feel like it, but it's a 2x4, really is what it is. So it's 2 inches. And I get up on that, and I try to walk across the whole thing without tipping over. But generally, especially in the beginning when I started doing it, I tip over 8, 9, 10 times before I get all the way to the end. It's about 50 yards. And then I'd look around and see if anybody noticed. Or if I did make it, I'd look, But I got better at it because I kept doing it. And every time I do it, I learned, okay, first you got to breathe. I notice that when I'm breathing deeply and I'm walking, somehow that helps to balance the system out. And then if I don't get too mental about it and I just walk, I just tell myself, stay on it and go. And I just walk. And sometimes I make it all the way across. And so balance is a challenge. It's something we have to know, first of all, what our goal is. That's looking ahead, and that helps develop context for the balance. And we also have to keep moving. And we have to practice at it, and after a while, we get better. And so living a life with a job, with a family, with all the responsibilities that we have, and integrating it with Krishna consciousness is what Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita. Yukta hara viharasya yukta chestasya karmasu yukta swapna vabodasya yogo bhavati dukkha. He said, don't eat too much, but don't eat too little. That's balance. Have you ever accidentally eaten too much? Have you ever eaten too little? You know, you go like, that's enough. I'm going to lose weight. I'm not eating anymore. And all of a sudden at 1 a.m, you think, oh my God, what did I do? I mean, with everything, all the senses and the mind, keeping everything in balance. Krishna says to Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, Swe Swe Adhikarya Nishta Saguna Parikirtita. He said it's a good quality if you know what level you're at, what your qualification is, and you practice at that level. Don't try to exert yourself beyond what you can do. Do what you can do at the level you're at, and then gradually make advancement. He said that's a good quality if you know how to do that. So part of it's being humble, just saying, this is what I can do, and be steady at. Does that help? Okay. We'll take one more. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I was wondering why there's such an emphasis on remembrance at the time of death. Is it that what we remember at the time of death is assumed to be the culmination of our life's practice, or?
Yes, it is a culmination. And the philosophy behind that is that the world comes from God. God's the ultimate well-wisher of everyone and everything. And his policy is to accommodate. So his energies have that feature that they accommodate. Anything you want, they'll fulfill your desire. And the world's responding to our desires. If we have a need, we have a need, the needs will be fulfilled. That's there in the world. If you're thirsty, there's water. If you're hungry, there's fruits on the tree. Everything's provided for here in this world. Tasyaiva hetu pariteta kovido, na labite yad brahmatamu paridat. Therefore, Bhagavatam says, you don't have to try so hard. You know that? It's artificial standard to work so hard just to feed yourself. He said, look, check out the ants. They have no union. They have no, I don't know what else. They don't have a contract, huh? They don't have a college degree. Yet they're consummate engineers, and they get everything done. It's all provided by nature. Because nature is all accommodating, because Krishna is all accommodating. And the world's programmed to respond to us conscious beings and say, what do you want? How can I serve you? And when you are leaving from one body going to the next body, material nature then, shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam evacha atishtayam manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Material nature says, okay, what do you want? It's like you punched it all in. Ever bought an Apple computer and you go on, probably the same for all of them. You go on and you choose all the features you want online before you go buy it. Is that I want this much RAM, I want this much storage space, I want this much of power in the chip and all that kind of stuff. So what we want when we're leaving the world, it comes as a force, it's a wave. And the thrust of that is right out there in the open. It's presented. The material nature says, yep, got it. Got your order. It's all locked in. And Shotram, Chakshu, Sparshanam, Cha, it's mentioning, okay, here's the kind of nose you need. Here's the kind of ears you're going to get. You just dial them up, and the material nature responds. So that has to do also with our free will. As Krishna, he's saying, whatever you want, I'll respond to that. Therefore, if you decide you just want me, and you become Krishna conscious, then you rise to that level. And you'll be impelled. We are impelled by our consciousness. We are even now. We're impelled by our consciousness, right? If you develop habits, for instance, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a habit that's not too embarrassing. Yeah, sleeping's definitely a habit. But I'm trying to think of things that might be add-ons that we really do. Walking, yeah. Oh, that's a good habit. I'm trying to think of bad habits, actually. Scrolling, yeah. That one's pretty universal. And procrastinating, scrolling. So there's so many things. Once you get used to it, you get in a habit, it pulls you. And that's the same thing that happens when you leave this body. The same thing is happening now. You just get pulled. It's not that much different. You can notice it now. It's like, what am I pulled towards and what can I get free from? And so material nature is just like on the internet. If you look up backpacks, doesn't matter where you go. You can go on a website about Shakespeare. All of a sudden, 5 backpacks will show up. It's like, how about this? How about that? And the material nature is just like that. It's like that same algorithm that whatever you look at something, dhyayato vishayam pumsam sangasteshu prajayasya, like, yeah, maybe that, you know. And then you look away, and then later on, it keeps coming back to you. It said, you said maybe that. Here it is. You want it, you want it, you want it. And partly that's for us to rise above. Because when we exert our will so powerfully, where we say that, I don't want any of this. I'm categorically finished with everything in the material world. I'll live here peacefully, but I'll use everything for Krishna, and I'll engage myself in Krishna consciousness all the time. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. And then you're compelled, but in a different way, towards Krishna. Like, you don't want to be anywhere else except for where the Bhagavatam's going on, the recitation, right? Say yes. Yeah, that's true of you. And so you become more and more like that. And then you have this way that you're just being pulled to Krishna. It's the same feeling, only it makes you feel complete instead of incomplete and embarrassed that you were duped yet again by an inferior object of meditation. Okay, great questions. Thank you very much, everyone. And here we get a note. That means 112 people tuned in. Thank you very much, everyone online. Hare Krishna. Give them a hand. So now, let's practice a little mantra. And the science of mantra has to do with the resonating power of sound. And sound, okay, there's another instruction. We're being asked to move up. Can you move up? Sorry. 7.2 inches ought to do it. If you have a little... Thank you. The power of sound. Okay? Say yes. Yes. Okay. The power of sound. We have ultrasound. Ultrasound reveals what's in the body. We can't see it with our eyes. Doctors? Confirmed. Then we have sonar. You can see what's in the ocean. You can listen with a stethoscope. You can hear the harmonics of the heart. And the person who's been trained in understanding how a heart's supposed to sound can determine if it's a healthy heart or if there's some abnormality within the heart just by listening. We can understand what's going on in a distant place by sound. If somebody calls up their friend in Chicago, or if we call Abai in Michigan right now and say, what's the weather? He'll say it's 1 degree below zero. And we'll know what it's like in Michigan right now. So sound is informative. It shows us what we can't see with our normal vision. And the Vedas say, anavriti shabdat. That means that you can uncover yourself and you can free yourself from the unwanted habits and the flow of your consciousness going toward matter. And you can change that by sound. It's the process of hearing spiritual sound. And it also, the Bhagavatam describes how we have sound within us. And did you know that the Bhagavatam, the 11th canto, describes how the vibration Om, has anybody heard that before? Here, let's try it. That one vibration is the representative of the complete whole. And it also is vibrating within our heart. So when you chant Om, you'll notice that it resonates with your heart because that sound vibration is also going on right there in the heart. And there are energy centers starting at the base of the spine that go all the way up here and all the way up to the top of the head. And each one has its characteristic. The thought energy comes from below here and it migrates upwardly. That's why when I'm speaking now, there's impulses coming up and I'm vocalizing them. I'm saying what's coming as subtle energy, thought energy, and it's coming up quickly through the different chakras or energy centers, and then there's a energy center here, and then I have some facility to speak what I'm hearing internally. So we're interconnected with the outside sound of the mantra and the inside sound of the mantra, and we can harmonize those. Now, the science of Krishna consciousness, as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's been taught for millions of years, but he emphasized this for our present age. There is a way in which when we say the names of God and we repeat them and we listen to them, it will connect us to our relationship with God directly. He's also there within the heart chakra. Krishna is there. He's in your heart. And when you chant his names, then he'll reveal himself through the chanting. And anavriti shabdat, simultaneously the fog will clear. Agham dunvanti karsneya nihara iva bhaskara. So bhaskara, the sun comes out in the form, metaphorically, the holy name. This is in a poem written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says that the sun of the holy name is risen within your heart. And when that happens, then you see everything clearly. And you also see Krishna, and you become conscious of Krishna. So that's the science of the name of God. Name of God, same as God. No difference whatsoever. And the light is there. So if you chant, and also it's helpful when you chant to be a little reverent because you're in the presence of the Supreme. So be serious about it. Live a serious lifestyle. Don't fool around and get yourself entangled, because then you'll feel bad and everyone will feel bad for you. And it's really lamentable to waste your valuable human life fooling around, because once you get caught again and you're already Krishna conscious, then you really feel bad because you think, what a fool am I? So don't fool around, and then be reverent when you chant the names of the Supreme, Krishna. And then just like when you eat food and it gets digested automatically, so Kapila Dev in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, says, when you practice this bhakti yoga, hearing, chanting, remembering, then naturally there's a way in which your lower nature will diminish. It's also in the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, Tada rajas tamo bhava, kama lobarayasche, chete teranavidam stitam sattve prasidati. By hearing and chanting about God, then naturally you'll diminish, the lower impulses will be diminished by the power of that sound vibration. Convinced? Yes. Okay, let's try it. We'll sing the Hare Krishna mantra together and sing with your heart. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Prashanete Shunyavani Paschate Shatarani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaur Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Shri Harinam Mantra ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki, for everybody in Mountain View ki, everybody in Bay Area ki, everybody in America, North America, South America, Europe, Eurasia, Russia, Australia, Africa, Antarctica, India, all over the world. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna, but with the mission to teach people the direct, easy process to come close to him, went village to village, house to house. He'd sit down with families and he'd show them this method that we're doing here. And he's called this the Yuga Dharma. And that by chanting with your family, with your friends, get the neighborhood involved, then naturally everyone would come to this level of Krishna consciousness very directly by chanting. And he said it's like cleansing the mirror of your heart. And he also said that it puts out that fire of anxiety that we all have, that we feel like we're being burned by because so many obligations, and then death is stalking us and we don't know what's going to happen to our loved ones, to all the treasure that we've gathered, what might happen. All this burning sensation diminishes and then is extinguished by this chanting. One feels very naturally that I'm satisfied. And such a person wants to do good for others, and that becomes the main occupation of a person in whom the mirror has been cleansed, the fire has gone down, and then what's there really to do except to try to do good for other living entities in the world, not just people, all the animals, for the God's green earth. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, try to make this vibration popular everywhere. Make the Hare Krishna chant popular. And our teacher and the founder of this organization, we call the founder Acharya, because he set by example. He came on a sea voyage on a very unluxurious cruise to America. And he did the same thing as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He just went from one village to the next and he sat down with whomever would sit or stand and listen. And by the chant itself, those who listened became interested. It means their hearts were cleansed gradually. They got more information and then they wholeheartedly practiced. And then it spread like a fire around the world. It went from one village to the next. Those who had heard it went and taught the chant to other people. And then it got spread everywhere. There's a great need for this in the world. If you think about how we've, in the world, collectively attained various levels of proficiency in technology, it's about, we can ascertain that even if we make things go a little bit faster, it's not going to satisfy us. In fact, now there's a worry, maybe we have too much technology. It's too smart. Now it's going to outsmart us. People are worried. Now you're telling me. There's all types of science fiction movies about AI robots taking over our lives and stuff, and that's not too far from the truth. So going back to the basic roots of the teachings of the Vedas, everything's included in this chanting. So if you organize your life around it, then you'll find a natural improvement in your consciousness and you'll want to do more. And we have here this organization. We have this core center, but we have satellites all over the Bay Area. We have in San Francisco, we have in Santa Cruz, we have in San Jose, we have in Davis, we have in Sacramento, and Santa Rosa. And then we have multiple homes. Many of the homes of our congregation are bigger than this temple anyway. So they're opening their homes to have Hare Krishna programs. And whatever environment you like, you don't have to come to a temple or this temple, but you can find any of the satellites where you feel naturally inclined and you like the association there. But the main thing is to chant Hare Krishna. And then read books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other ones I recommended today. I said the Upadeshamrita. All these are available on our book tables, and you'll have your own bona fide spiritual practice, and you'll make the world a better place. And now we're going to have the main event of the day, which is a Hare Krishna dance festival, dance party. And so we're going to roll up this rug. We're going to take the seats that we're all sitting on and place them in the box back there. And we're going to assemble back here for the Hare Krishna dance party of the century, or of the year, since it's January 19th. And then after that, a couple quick announcements, and then we're going to feed everybody, not just who's here, but anybody in, where are we? Mountain View, San Mateo County, Santa Clara County. Call your friends, put it out on the internet. We'll feed anybody who comes down here. And if we run out, we'll cook more. We're up for it. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you on the dance floor in about 2 minutes. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
It's actually giving me life. It's so facilitating. Right in your backpack. Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Call you. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashasha Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Stotra Shatashi Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Stotra Shatashi Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotee. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलगरे नका अद्भुतशृङ्गार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु कानुगेन्द्रा केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदेता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नरहरि जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय नरहरि जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद नीताय गौर हरि बोल नीताय गौर हरि बोल नीताय गौर हरि बोल नीताय गौर हरि बोल We'll continue kirtan for just another 10 minutes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We welcome you to ISKCON of Silicon Valley, and we're very, very happy to see this wonderful turnout. First, we'd like to thank His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu for giving such a wonderful class today. We'd also like to thank him for leading the Arthi. Haribol. By a quick show of hands, who here is visiting ISV for the first time? Please just raise your hand. Welcome. We have a couple devotees in the back. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Haribol. We have a devotee in the back there. And here as well. Thank you so much for coming. We're very, very happy to have you here. It's such a treasure and treat. So please let myself, Hansapriya, who is here, or Sri Gopal Prabhu, we'll all be around. If there's anything that we can do to help you and make your stay here more comfortable, because we'd really like to see you here more often. Thank you so much for coming. We'd also like to thank the broadcast team and the online audience who joined us today from various platforms. Haribol.
And also, we would like to thank Priya Kishori for leading a Narsimha Aarti and the short kirtan after that. Haribol.
We'll acknowledge the sponsors for today's feast. We have 3 sponsors. If you're here and I announce your name, please do come up. I know a couple aren't here, but we would still appreciate you today. First, we have Sukanya and her husband, who is sponsoring the Sunday feast for their daughter's birthday, and their daughter's name is Aditi. Aivo. Please come.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for your priceless association, and I am forever grateful for everything on this ISV community. Please keep us in your prayers. Thank you.
Do you want to say Hare Krishna?
I can say she's shy.
Thank you.
I'm getting a special gift. Aditi can take the special gift. Say Hare Krishna.
These are some Mangalarti sweets. Haribol. Next, we have Janaki Nath Prabhu and Labanga Latika Mataji, who are sponsoring the Sunday feast on a very special occasion that their daughter has delivered a baby boy whose name is Rishi and who is also called at home as Rishikesh. Haribol. They weren't able to join us today because the baby's still very small. So we would like to thank Prabhu Mataji and the new baby Rishikesh for the sponsorship. Haribol. And the last sponsor we have is Shyamala Kishore Prabhu, who is sponsoring today's feast. Prabhu, are you here? Shyamala Kishore Prabhu. No? Okay, we'll give you your sweet right after. Next, we have the announcement of the cooks. Arna, please.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was led by Avnish Prabhu under Krishangi Gopika Mataji's guidance. There was a mix of adults and youths today in the kitchen, which include Yogadish Prabhu, Vishal Prabhu, Tejas Prabhu, Shasta Sar Prabhu, Surya Kant Prabhu, Parul Mataji, Sharad Bihari Prabhu, Sakala Sukant Prabhu, Nitai, Vedant, Atyant, Ritvik, Shreya Mataji, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Niral Prabhu, and many more who we thank for helping out in the kitchen today. Haribol.
Thank you, Arna. I always appreciate when these kids recite the names because names are complicated sometimes. We have such beautiful names, but you do such a good job. All right, so now coming to one special announcement before Prasadam. We have Harinam coming up on the 25th of Jan, and I believe this is the first Harinam of the year. So it's a very special occasion. Haribol. So it's on the 25th of Jan on Saturday in Lytton Plaza, Palo Alto. All the details will be sent out, but mainly we look forward to your presence to start off 2025 with the holy name and welcoming as many people as possible to hear it and spreading this good fortune. Haribol. Lastly, it is cold outside, officially very wintry outside, as you must have already observed. So we'd like to be considerate of the elderly devotees and Matajis with kids to go up in front so that they can get their plate and come inside to the warmth a little earlier. So please allow them to, and you're welcome if you're in that category to please come in the front and take your prasadam plate. As always, we have the custom line, which is on the right, and the to-go line or ready-made line, which is on the left. So you can choose as you like, and you can come back into the temple room to honor prasadam. We do have a program after prasadam, which starts at 7 p.m. And so we just, because it's in this hall, we might need a little help to clean up so that we can be ready for that program. If you could stay back and just exit the temple room by 6:35, that would give everybody enough time to prepare. Thank you so much for coming today, and we hope to see you for Harinam as well as the programs next week. Hare Krishna.
Sharira Vidya